Okay guys, so to get to the blower motor, you're gonna have to lift this panel up, and there is some trick. So you have to remove the screws that are, I think there's just one screw that is holding this up. So you remove this screw, and then you don't really have to remove any of this wiring, right? This panel just lifts up like this, and then you can access the blower motor. So the best way to do it, there are two notches here and here, and then there's one notch right here. So all you have to do is just lift this notch up first and get this out of the way. Once you lift it, it'll just move a little bit, right? And then this whole panel, you will pull this a little bit towards the back, so it kind of slides out as long as this notches, the side notches, undone. And once you slide this back, it just kind of comes loose. So and then you can just pretty much lift it up. There is this connector holding so that you can remove it, just to give it some access. And I think, let me see if I can just lift it up without having to remove it. So I don't think I can, so I'm gonna have to figure out a way for this guy lift it from here. So okay, so here's what I did. So there's this connector right here that goes. I'm gonna lift it up and I'm gonna unscrew this, so I'm freeing this guy, this cable from this whole connector, and this will give me some access to lift this a lot easier than I have room right now. I mean, technically I can lift it up and just throw it on the back, but it's kind of like in the way, so it's very hard. So once I remove this, then it's gonna be much easier. You can flip this back and work a lot easier. Okay, so there are some screws that I'm going to remove to get to the blower motor, and there's one right here, one I already showed you here, and once I remove these, I'll figure out if there's any more. There might be some, and then we can get to guys. So going back to show you guys what I did, so I removed this. The way I did that is I removed there was a connector right there. I put a tape there, I removed that, and there was a connector, this right there, I removed that just so I can get this wired thing out of the way, and I taped it just so I don't touch anything and cause some kind of damage. And then I had this thing right there, which was installed right there. So as you can see, it had 4 screws, 1, 2, there's one right here, and there's one right there. I took it out, so I had to take this off, and this was just the way. So this thing is kind of facing a front of the car, so the opening kind of like right here, and there was like a foam thing right in front of it, and as you can see, it all deteriorated. The whole thing just came apart. So anyways, I took this off. There is a sensor right there. There is electrical connector that I had to take off, and let me show you the connector. It's this piece right there. So there's just 2 clips, and just squeeze it and it's pop right back out. So these are the only 2 wires that I removed. Now you might get a error on your screen, so don't start the car or anything like that. And this is the fan blower motor, and I'm gonna have to figure out how to remove this part. So just keep track of your wires and keep working through. This thing was kind of in the way, and I was debating to remove it or not, but I decided not to, and I was able to. It was kind of hard to wiggle this out, but I kind of managed to do that. So let's see, what's the next step. So there's one up front that I already removed. I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but there's one right there that I removed, and then there was one right here which I removed, and then finally I'm removing this one, and there might be one back there, so I'm just gonna have to dig in and take a look. Yeah, so to remove this is not an easy task. I mean, I got it all loose and everything, but you have to remove this bar. You might have to pull your hood up, so I decided not to remove it because the main purpose is to clean the fan, and as you can see inside there are leaves that are sitting which are making noise. So as you can see, there's a leaf right there, and what I'm going to do is just vacuum it out, and because that's all there is to it, the problem. And once I get this removed, my problem should be solved. So I don't see a need for removing the entire motor unless you're having an issue with the motor or something. Then you're gonna have to lift the hood up and remove the entire piece and just replace the fan itself. But in my case, I'm just gonna go ahead and vacuum this out, and I think that should take care of my problem. Hello guys. Okay, so ran into a little bit issue. So what happened was I cleaned up the motor, the blower motor, and all of a sudden my blower, nothing was working. I was getting malfunction lights on the car and just panicked. And what happened was I had removed this lug right there, which I did mention. I think I showed it a little bit earlier that I had tape on there and told you guys to be careful. So even though I had a tape, what happened was before I did not remove this bar. So it was mounted right here across this, and then this thing is also removable. You can just remove that pin and remove it. So I didn't have any of this, and I was trying to work in this area without having to remove this bar and trying to work it through, and bad move, right? Even though I put a tape there, it ends up when I remove this lug, this was still energized. And the biggest mistake I did in my life was not to disconnect the negative of the battery. And not only negative, but this wire goes directly to the distribution panel on top of the battery, and I made a separate video if anybody wants to see how to replace it. So anyways, I ended up blowing the fuse. I had to replace that fuse, and I was running into a lot of issues. And anyways, all that is done. So now I had power back here. Well, right now what I did is what was disconnected the battery. Now I put everything back together, and was not working. The fan was not working. The car would turn on, but my fan was completely dead. And I was panicking. I thought I burned something more, but what ended up happening was there is a cable right there which I removed when I was trying to remove this fan out of the place. And on the way back, I just lost track and did not plug this back in. So this is where the controlling from the inside comes into picture and controls the unit. So like, you know, I didn't remember if I put it back or not. But later on, when I opened everything back up, I noticed that I never plugged that back in. So as soon as I plugged that back in, plugged in all the negative terminal and positive terminal on the battery. Now, once you do that, make sure you wait a little bit, right? I mean, these are electronic cars. They have computers, which takes time to reboot. So if you just plug it in and try to restart the car, guess what? It's going to give you a bunch of errors and it's not going to start. So plug everything in. Once it has power, go inside, have your lunch, whatever, and come back after 10-15 minutes. Give it time to settle, and then you start your car and everything should be fine. So just a quick recap. I plugged back in, make sure you connect the sensor. That's one wire. There is a power wire over there. You have to connect that. Then you have to connect that third wire that I missed, this one right there. And then if you unplug this, it makes it a lot easier for you to flip this. Otherwise, this wire is very short, so you don't want to take that risk, you know, in touching this bolt to any ground wire. And then get that out of the way. If you unplug the pin from here, this thing comes off right now. As you can see, I have a broom supporting it, and this thing can basically just come out the way, and you can see, there you go. And it just pops out once you remove that pin. And then this way it gives you a lot more room to work, and you can just take the whole thing out, service it, put it back in. And then so basically I was testing it, so that's why it's sitting on top, but basically this whole thing is sitting on top of this. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this part, flip it over, install this, and plug everything back on. And just keep track of your screws and how the screws goes once you're removing it. And that's it, guys. Hopefully by doing this you will be able to fix the issue with the fan making noise and all the leaf and all that stuff that goes in there. Once you install this, it will prevent any future leaves going in. Just make sure you seal it very, very good, so there's no way anything in future can go inside of this thing, because that's where the leaves go in. Originally BMW put like a foam kind of material which deteriorates and goes in. Probably saw it earlier, and it took like what, 3-4 days for me to do this, but only because I had run into issues. But once you once you figure this out and you don't have any issues, it's a matter of maybe a half an hour to maximum an hour job if you're taking your sweet time to do it. Lessons learned, which I already shared with you guys, and hopefully it will help you guys to do the job. Thank you guys.